It is currently my most favorite kind of homestead morning. It's a Saturday, so we don't have a ton of obligations today, which is very nice. It's early, it's foggy, it's kind of cool. And right now, I'm headed out here to take a look at the work that's happening. I've been inside with the kids. Maya got out here about an hour ago, shortly after it got light. And our neighbors are here helping him scrape up the grass where we are about to start laying down our driveway. Oh my goodness, it is beautiful out here. So the project this weekend is that we have to get this space ready for the gravel to start being dumped next week. And that includes taking those culverts and putting them in here where the rain drains down to the pond from pretty much our whole property and the property next door. So if you guys remember when the tropical storm came through a couple weeks ago, I came out here and shot a video and I showed how the water was flowing down. Now, several people suggested you should dig that out and make a creek. That's the only time I've ever seen water actively flowing there in all of our time on this property. It takes a lot of rain at once, and it was dried up a few hours later. I mean, it was soggy, but it wasn't actively flowing. So we have to have some way for water to get through in case of emergency, but it's not going to be like an active creek. This is pretty cool, Maya.
Oh, what? Seeing our first stage of the driveway?
And look at the soil. I know we're going to be putting this underneath the driveway, but
no.
If it's here, it means it's elsewhere.
That's true. We're actually going to use the equipment and scrape all this grass off so it doesn't build up underneath the gravel. Because what happens if you have a bunch of thick grass under the gravel, when it dies, it creates pockets, and that's where you get like potholes and stuff. So we're going to try and build a good base of just soil, and then when the gravel packs, it should stay level.
Cool. What are you going to do with this? Compost it?
Yeah, it's going to pile it up.
Nice. I love soil.
I came in yesterday. This is towards the YouTube people. And Jessica and her mom went to this plant center and they're like, you should have seen this plant. It was like this. You should have seen that plant. It was like that. And I was like, this sounds exactly like me and my friend going to Home Depot and be like, you should have seen this 60-volt flex drill with a handle 3 batteries. It was just like that. Because I'm just like, plants, yeah, cool.
I like plants, okay?
Yeah, but no, your mom too, and you guys like geek out on plants. It's cute.
You know what I really like is how having this driveway kind of laid out where you can actually see it, it really shows the scope of where my garden's gonna be. Look at this. I'm just so wooed by this land. Alright, so Jeremiah just informed me that the next step on the driveway is to wait because it's so foggy right now. They have to wait for the sun to come out and kind of dry what they just what's the word? They just came in and tore up all the grass, and they're gonna come in and scrape the grass off and kind of pack the soil down a little bit so that when they start laying the material, it doesn't just sink into the ground. So they're actually moving on to a different project, and we'll be working on this later today. But I am really tickled to see this, and on such a beautiful morning too. So where I'm standing right now, right here is the gate that goes into the pasture where the barn will be. And there will be a driveway that goes back and meets the main driveway. And on both sides of this barn driveway will be entries into these fenced areas. And the side I'm standing on now is where we're gonna build a glass greenhouse for seed starting, as well as doing some raised garden beds. It's gonna be like partially flower gardening, potager style, you know, herbs and perennials and annual vegetables every year. And then it's gonna kind of be mirrored on the other side. So right here by this gate and around the barn behind where our house will eventually be, will be where all of that kind of gardening is. And then we're gonna do a lot of in-ground efforts as well. My goal here in gardening at this house is just to completely replace our food sourcing. I want to be able to source the majority of our food here. Now, I'm kind of a foodie, so I will probably always still buy things that I can't grow. But if I could grow the majority of our food here, and we totally can, this is plenty of space to grow the majority of our food, that's really our goal. And with the experience we have, with the knowledge that we have, you know, our last farm took us 7 years to build it to the place where we were growing a very large amount of our food. This one, we're not trying to rush. We're trying to really build something that's going to be long lasting, build it smart. We're not like getting into this like scrambling place. But I think that within a couple of years, we could have some really solid systems established to be growing the majority of what we eat. Honestly, having this driveway where I can visually see it is, it's on one hand, it's very exciting because it's like, wow, this is so much space that I'm going to fill up with growing things. And on the other hand, I'm like, am I nuts? So much space. I think I'm an enthusiastic gardener and I love plants. Bear doesn't think I'm nuts, right, Bear?
I just want you to know I do not like your camera. That hasn't changed. So Jessica and her mom have left to go see Cousin Jerry up in Greenwood, and I've been staying here keeping track of the kids, making sure that they don't hurt each other and be friendly. I've also been working on stuff around here. Obviously there's a long list of stuff that we have to do, stuff that we have to do, and stuff that we want to do. One of those things is getting the camper set up. So I've moved the camper over to our property, and I've been working for the last couple of days to get water, power, and when they put our septic system in, I had them run essentially a dump station for us to be able to dump the camper where we're going to be parking it without having to drive it anywhere. So I've got the wire run in conduit for the 50 amp hookup, and then today, this afternoon, I've been working on the water line. But before we go over there, I wanted to talk about why I'm pushing right now. With all this other stuff going on that we could be doing, why am I pushing to get the camper set up? I actually tried to get it set up before Jessica's mom came because we were hoping she could come and just stay in the camper and have her own space, but some things got delayed and some other things I had to take care of caused me to not be able to get that done. Now Jessica's dad is coming for his first visit since recovering from his cancer treatments in about 2 weeks. So I put it to the top of my priority list to make sure that it's set up, cleaned, and ready for when they come to visit. So anyways, let's go over and you'll see my working partner for the day. So today we've got Jesse James, or Jesse the Kid, or just Jesse, my new South Carolina spirit animal with the get up here. I don't know what you call this. I think this is a Southern Homestead line from,
yeah, this is my new line. It'll be dropping next spring.
Next spring, okay.
Y'all keep an eye out for it.
All right, what have we been working on? All right, so you just got that hooked up?
Yeah, so we had to wait a couple minutes and let it set.
Okay, let me turn around so y'all can see it with the sun on it. All right, so that line going this way is the line, the water line, the main water line that we put in. Well, it runs backwards and connects to the house, and then I ran it out here to a shutoff valve with the valve box, and this is going to be where the water hooks up for the shop. See, there's the corner stake for the shop. There's a stake out there, right there. I thought ahead and decided to run that out. I trenched the line backwards from the camper and decided to dig this back up. If I had thought enough ahead, I would have put this in when I was doing this first water line, but honestly the camper was kind of out of sight, out of mind, and so we had to dig this up and cut it, put a T in, and then we ran a line all the way down and around to where the camper's at. So this is the Grand Hotel and Suite for all the grandparents to come visit. Like how I did that there, the Grand Hotel. Yeah, it was very punny. But anyways, this is where they'll be staying whenever they come to visit. Well, I do appreciate you helping me get that water line in. What have you been up to? You know, it's been, I don't know, how long have we known each other now?
Been about 6 years.
Oh, 6 years?
No, I
was like, oh, I guess we knew each other.
We knew each other in the past.
You know, like those destined friends.
We were supposed to meet each other.
Right. I can get behind that, but in Real time, about what?
A couple months.
A couple months, a little bit more than that, probably.
Yeah.
Jesse's come out when he's had some time off. He loves to do and learn the same stuff that we're doing and learning. So he's been coming out, hanging out, doing some work, mostly just making jokes, laughing.
That's what I'm here for.
Comedic
relief.
You know, community building.
Yep.
Relationship building. But also being helpful. Like, that would have taken me twice as long to do all that pot by myself. So I do
You starting to get that southern. You starting to get that South Carolina.
It's been hanging out with this South Kakalaki.
That pipe.
That pipe. True. I never would have said that before, but hey, if I'm gonna move here and stay here, I'm gonna immerse myself. So
do it.
I'm gonna do it.
Fully.
How are things going on your guys' homestead with your family?
Slowly but surely. That's the premise of what I'm learning is I need to take it slow, enjoy the process. It's coming along. I've got plans, but one of the biggest consistencies on my homestead right now is the fact that plans change all the time.
That's good.
So,
well, I mean, same thing. Like, you know, I think that's a good lesson to learn early on. We didn't get that in our tool belt until much later, and it caused a lot of headaches because, you know, that goes back to, you know, when we were talking before, and I know me and you and Jessica were talking about earlier in front of the house, but like you rush and then you end up later having to tear down stuff that you built because you built it in the wrong spot or you didn't think it through.
Right.
And that whole slowing down thing is not necessarily that you're doing nothing. It's just like you're kind of just thinking things through. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, if I had slowed down while I was rushing to get all the water lines done, I would have thought, oh, I'm gonna have to run water to the camper. I might as well go ahead and hook that up now while I've got everything in process, and I wouldn't have had to spend hours digging up that pipe.
It could have been done a lot sooner.
We would have been done already before you even showed up, and then instead of working today, we could have
had a good laugh.
You know, we could have rode bicycles together. You could have braided my hair. I mean, listen, the list of things we could have done instead, long list. But instead we worked, which, I mean, it's still good.
Yeah, it's always good to work.
But so yeah, he'll be around, I'm sure, for many more videos and shenanigans and
Hope
fun.
So.
Appreciate it, bud.
Thank you.
Now you got to go get the wife fed.
Yep.
Before she
running a little late.
Running a little late. All right, well.
Love you, baby. I'm on the way.
Okay.
We'll see you later.
All right, y'all, it is the next day, and as you will notice, I'm sitting in my lovely new side-by-side. We ordered this when we came out here in the spring. No, it was after that. It was I don't remember exactly when it is. It was before we were starting to work on the property. Of course, everything is back ordered now, and it actually just came in, and we were able to go pick it up yesterday, and I am so pumped. It is so hard to capture the space that we are working with here. And of course, everybody started saying as soon as I started hauling the camera around and making videos, Jess, you're probably gonna have to address some sort of vehicle to navigate your property. And of course, at that point, we already knew that we were getting one. I guess I need to name it. What do y'all think? I know Justin has his Sally. It's big enough we can haul the kids around in it too, and it has a truck bed on the back, and it dumps. So this was, Maya obviously will both use this a lot for running around our property, carrying materials and stuff. But more than anything, this was purchased with me in mind, being able to carry garden materials, carry plants. You know, we're setting up greenhouses and different things, and having compost and mulch and all of that, being able to move stuff around that I can't carry because there's just no way to walk. From our driveway to the front, from our house to the front, it's like 900 feet or something like that. It's a really large space, and this will be massive once we're milking animals and all of that. And I was really excited when it came yesterday. I was like, oh, it was Christmas Day for me. So I want to give you guys an update. It's the middle of the day, it's super bright, but I am getting ready to fly back to Arkansas. The videos this week are going to be a little bit out of order because I'm filming some stuff and it's going up, but this video is going up first because we had started. Anyway, sometimes it's that way. I try to give you guys a real accurate experience of what's going on, but just because sometimes, you know, I'm going out of town. You have to figure these things out. I'm going back to Arkansas. My mom is here, of course. She's going back with me. She's going home. But I have one more load Noah is there, Jeremiah's brother. Of course, he moved out here and he's finishing up his house there, getting ready to sell it. And he is driving the U-Haul with the rest of our stuff. So our deep freezer's coming. We had all this odds and ends stuff like our incubator and our freeze dryer and all of these different things which were in the garage, a lot of the stuff in storage, extra furniture, all of that. And we actually had to figure out where to put it here. We couldn't bring it all in the beginning because we didn't have anywhere for that to go. We didn't even have our house to move in when we first came out here. And now we actually have a shipping container. This was something that was heavily suggested by you guys and we looked into it. And it ended up being the most economical option to get some storage out here. And we are going to be able to repurpose that shipping container later. And Jeremiah is going to work out something. I'll let him tell you guys about it when it comes time. But some sort of kiln in storage, because he's going to start milling wood with his sawmill soon once we get done with all of this foundational things. And that's getting delivered this week. And I will be back in the middle of this week. So this is the last little leg of our logistics of our move. I think after this week I will feel like we actually fully live here. I very much felt like we lived here when my dogs got here. I know that might be silly, but if you are a dog person, you understand. Home is where your dog is. And like once Bear was here with me and he was underfoot, it felt like home. Because since I've had him and since he's been underfoot, if I am somewhere where Bear is not, it's because I'm not home. And since Bear Dog got here, I have definitely felt at home, but I have had this big trip looming, this big thing I had to do. And once this is over with, I'm really looking forward to feeling a little more settled. So I wanted to give you guys a driveway update. Papa T's over here working today, helping out using this skid steer to scrape the ground. And basically what we've done here, and I showed you guys the beginning of the video where they had disked this. Disked was the word that I could not find in my vocabulary. And they came and they let it dry and that cut up all the grass. And they came and they scraped kind of off the top level of looser topsoil. And if you'll see, there's a pile down there. There's a pile behind the Ranger. And there's a few, like 4 piles over here. And all of these are that topsoil that came off the driveway. And as you can see, it's got a lot of grass in it. This is actually really solid soil. It looks kind of light right now. It's real dry and hot. But if I can move this top bit off, you can see this is this top few inches of this soil. And this soil is very solid. Our property had cattle run on it for decades. We're gonna sit here in the shade and chat. This property had cattle run on it for decades, and it's really cool because of that, and because of the fact that the pond is kind of a low point for this area, not just this 27 acres, but a lot of the area around it. And when you have a low point and when water runs down to it, what happens is nutrients are taken in that water, not even just on the soil surface, but underneath the ground and in the groundwater, and they are deposited as they run downhill. So if you have an area, you know, on your property that's kind of like a lower area, a lot of times you're going to have the best soil on your property there just because it runs downhill and it kind of settles. And so the low points typically have more topsoil on them. And this kind of flattish area, this property drains beautifully. It really is such a massive blessing that we're not dealing with a lot of standing water. It is very well contoured. There are a few areas that, because I'm going to be planting them, I'm planning on putting in some swales and, well, I'm not going to put in swales. I'm planning on designing some swales, which Maya will be putting in to kind of capture more of the water and slow it down a little bit so I can plant things in tiers. And I don't have any real extreme hills or anything, but just even gentle sloping, you can make the most of your water with swales. But the way that this is, there's kind of like this level place here that goes down, it starts to taper off and go down into the pond over here. And this field is where the high spot is kind of going to be where we build our house eventually. And this main part of the field is where we're putting in all of our gardens. And the reason we're doing that is because this has the highest deposit of that rich topsoil from having had cattle run on it for so long. Now the thing I'm trying to figure out is I've got these big piles of this topsoil and we don't want to waste that. We pulled it off because when you're laying gravel down for a driveway, if you just were to lay it down on top of grass, when the grass would go through it, and that top few inches of soil is looser, and it was just going to swallow up that gravel, and gravel's not cheap. And so we definitely want to do as much prep work as needed to make sure that the gravel we lay down is going to last us as long as possible. It will have to be refreshed probably within the next couple of years, but eventually we'll get it packed down enough and another layer on, and it'll stay and it'll last longer. But this topsoil we scraped off and we've piled up. Now there's a lot of grass in it. This field is Bermuda grass, which is not a gardener's best friend, but I'm considering what I want to do, and I need to make a decision. I think what I'm going to do with this topsoil, I want to show you, it's so bright, I hope you guys can see. In this area, I've kind of changed plans a little bit. When I saw that rain and I saw how the taper over here went down, that's where I'm going to put some swales in. And I'm going to move some of my dwarf fruit trees over on this side. I had originally planned on putting the glass greenhouse for seed starting down on the end of this garden belt, but I don't like the way that tapers off for that. It's actually great for doing swales and putting some trees in, but I don't want to put my glass greenhouse on that area that there might be more erosion. So eventually this barn here, this is just a structure we are using right now because it was here and we needed some shelter for our animals. You can see the alpaca girlies and the chickens are hanging out in there right now. Where are the goats? Oh, they're up underneath that tree in the shade. So this is gonna come down when we put up our big barn, which will be right back through there. And so this is gonna be really open. And I'm actually thinking I probably want to put my glass greenhouse somewhere in this region, which is right smack in the middle of my garden belt. So I'll have gardens on that side with the high tunnels, and I'll have gardens on this side that leads down to some fruit trees. And my thought is the middle of all of that is probably a great place for a seed starting greenhouse because I'm going to be taking plants out of that and going to both sides. So right in the middle seems like a good place. Plus it'll be a lovely focal point and it won't be in competition with that building because that building will eventually be gone. Hey bear, leave it. You can't kiss that chicken, you little stinker. There are going to be a couple of in-ground garden spaces here, and I'm thinking I'm going to lay this topsoil out, spread it out 6 inches or so, and go ahead and put my silage tarps on top of that. Someone commented, I thought this was so funny, I have to share with y'all, and they said, I had a hard time figuring out what you were saying because I was saying silage tarps, and I'm sure I was saying it country, silage tarps, was what I'm sure I said. And she said she was from New England, from the New England area, and it would have been silage tops. She typed it out. I was like, that's funny. But silage tarp is just black plastic that's used to lay down on top of ground to kill the vegetation underneath it. Not only does it kill what's existing by blocking it from getting light, and also the heat right now is going to help just bake anything that's under there. It also forces germination of any seeds that might be in the soil and creates what's called a sterile seed bed. The reason I want to do this today before I get on an airplane is because we're coming up on the end of August, beginning of September, and silage tarps will create a sterile seed bed in 3 weeks when it's hot outside. When it's cold outside, it takes 6 to 8 weeks from everything that I've read. And so the sooner that I get those down, the better, because I want to plant those with fall crops. And I'm thinking that if I can go ahead and spread this out, even though it has grass in it, and put the silage tarps on top of that, I really hope that it will do the trick and I won't be battling a ton of grass. Now, the worst case scenario, I've thought this out because I'm so nervous. Sometimes, guys, you're gonna think about all the things that could go wrong if you try something in your garden. And I talk to a lot of people who are in various stages of planning and implementing homesteading and gardening efforts, and the number one thing that is causing failure for people who desire to homestead and garden and grow their own food is analysis paralysis. People who have done the research, or they've read different things, they've read conflicting information. You're going to find conflicting information. The thing is, I can tell you what works wonderfully for me in one region with one set of circumstances, with one type of soil, with one type of grass growing, and it might fail miserably for you where you are. At some point, you kind of just have to throw the caution to the wind and do the thing. And it really helps me when I'm feeling analysis paralysis. And I still feel this. I feel this every time that I do something new on my garden. There are some things that I could do over and over and over again, and I feel so much confidence because they're going to succeed because I've done them so many times. But right now, everything that I'm doing is new, and so I definitely feel analysis paralysis. Oh no, what if I put this in and it doesn't go right? And while I do think it's really good to take your time and plan and read and turn your waiting room into a classroom, there will come a point where you just have to do something. And the worst that can happen is it will fail. And right now I was thinking about these big piles of topsoil I have, although they have grass in them. And the grass is ripped up and it's dead, but I'm sure there are some root systems that could gladly take hold and grow. But I'm thinking, well, if I move this soil and I lay the tarps down on top of the grass that's growing, I'm still putting tarps over grass. So if I lay the soil out and make a thicker area of soil, good soil to grow in, and it's great rich soil, and I put the silage tarps on that, the worst that can happen is next spring I will have realized that there's still a lot of grass in the soil and I'll have to do something about it. Like I could potentially like lay down cardboard, compost, like kind of basically treat that like a fresh slate for a no-dig bed. I think that it will be worth it. And when I say, okay, the worst that can happen is I could be in a very similar position that I am right now, having to figure out something different to do. And that makes me be like, okay, stop making this a bigger deal. Stop stressing yourself out. Just get it going. Because right now, the sooner that I get that going, the sooner I can plant it, the sooner I can plant it, the sooner I can harvest food out of my yard. And in this case, that's just what we're going to do. So Maya's actually going to come and spread that out, and we're going to lay those silage tarps down. And that way, when I'm out of town, those silage tarps are going to be working to prepare my ground. And in a few weeks, I can pull them aside and I can plant some stuff and have food soon. I'm actually so thrilled that all of this is going on. I'm just, I love growing food, and it is such a joy to me to be getting my hands back in the soil. And even if some of these are not like the long-term measures, it's definitely a very good start. So I will be showing you guys more of this later. You're going to be able to see the whole process from the beginning. A lot of you have expressed that it's very helpful for you watching us develop this from scratch, and it is so cool to get to share it with you. And I know you guys are helping us massively with your input to make it better. So thank you guys for hanging out with us today, yesterday, throughout the span of this video. I bless you. Until next time.